Hello pre-calculus kids. These are some examples from section 12.2 on the law of cosines. These are the homework problems, the practice problems. I picked three. As you saw in the introduction video, and I'm sure you saw in the flip math video, they're kind of pretty consistent. There's nothing like rocket science about these things. It's just a matter of following the formula. So I'm going to look at this first one. Number 4 was the first one that I picked for us. Number 2 is kind of interesting. You can use the law of sines, law of cosines, whatever, but this one's a right triangle. You can really go back and use just sine, cosines, and tangents to be able to solve the triangle. So they want you to figure out what all the sides and what all the angles are in this particular triangle. So we saw this in the intro video that if they give you all three sides, again, you can't use the law of sines with this because they didn't give you information, two pieces of information about the same letter. So in this case, they gave you all the sides. So the only thing you can do is try to find one of the angles, right? So I'm going to start with angle A. This is the law of cosine. So the cosine of angle A equals, you take the two sides that make up the angle. It's 21 squared plus, you add it with the other angle, or the other side that makes up the angle, 21.6 squared, and then you subtract away the opposite side, 25.9 squared. And then you divide that by 2 times these two guys, 21 and 21.6. And so you go to your calculator and you get what that decimal value is going to be. Now I'll show you this one on the calculator. I'm not going to show you all of them because you got the idea of how to use a calculator. All right, 21 squared plus 21.6 squared, oh, not that one, squared, minus 25.9 squared. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to divide it by, parentheses, 2 times 21 times 21.6. And it gives me this, a decimal point of 0.261, we'll round it to. Okay, so that's what the cosine of angle A is. I want to know what angle A is, so I do cosine to the -1 of 0.261, and out comes my reference angle. I'll show you this one again on the calculator. So second cosine of 0.261 gives me 74.87, so 74.9. That's your reference angle. Cosine is positive in the first and fourth quadrants, but think about that logically. We talked about this in the intro. If I were in the fourth quadrant, I'd be 360 minus 74.9. I'd still be 200 and some degrees, and that's way too big for my triangle, so it's not going to work. It's just going to be this 74.9, what it is in the first quadrant. So angle A is 74.9 degrees. Now I need to find another angle in the triangle, so I'm going to go for angle B, and I'm going to do exactly the same setup as this. The cosine of angle B, go to angle B, check out the two sides that make up angle B. They're the first numbers you use. 21.6 squared, 25.9 squared, subtract away the opposite, 21 squared, divided by 2 times 21.6 times 25.9, gives you a decimal again, and this one comes out to be 0.622. So you go to your handy dandy calculator and you say, all right, well, what is cosine to the -1 of 0.622? And out pops the reference angle of 51.5. All right, so 51.5 degrees. Again, cosine would be positive in the first and fourth. If it were in the fourth, it'd be too big. So your answer is just what the reference angle is. Angle B is 51.5. And you say, well, geez, I know what a triangle adds up to. It adds up to 180 degrees. So to find angle C, you're going to take 180, subtract away 74.9, subtract away 51.5, and angle C comes out to be 53.6 degrees, and you have just solved that triangle. You've got all the sides that they gave you, and you've got all of the angles as well. Okay, so there's an example when they give you the three sides, how you go about it to find the angles. The next one they're going to give you is or that we're going to do is number 6, and you'll see it's a little different in what they gave you. This time they gave you two sides and the angle that's between them. They did not give you enough information for you to be able to use law of sines because they gave you one single piece of information about each letter. So remember, law of sines, you need two pieces of information about the same letter, and you don't have that. That's how you know you got to use the law of cosines. All right, so here's how this one goes. They told me that little f is 29. They told me that little d is 26. And so I want to figure out what little e is. So in order to do that, I showed you all the formulas back when we did the introduction thing. Here's the formulas again. Here's how it works. Now we're looking for a side, so we're going to use this guy over here. We're going to use these formulas. So let me show you how this one works with e as my letter that I want to find. So here it is, e squared. So if I want to find e squared, I take the other two sides that I'm given. It's going to be 29 squared, and then it's going to be plus 26 squared minus 2 times these guys, 29 times 26, and then it's times the cosine of e, angle e. Well, I know angle e is 84 degrees. And so that's my setup. And then I'm going to go to my calculator again. I'll show you this one, working out the details here. So let me clear out what I got. 29 squared plus 26 squared minus 2 times 29 times 26 times cosine of 84. You can put it in just like it looks. And it gives you this crazy big number, e squared equals 1359.4. We'll round it. And then I want the square root of that, because remember, this is what e squared equals. And I showed you on the intro video, the easiest way to do that, since it's in your calculator just like this, is raise it to the 1/2 power. That's the same thing as taking the square root. So if I raise it to the 0.5 power, here it is. My lovely side e is 36.9. That would be miles, because they gave me units on this one. And that's it. That's my deal. So there's my little e, 36.9 miles. But they want you to solve the whole triangle, so you also need to come up with what the angles are. Now really all you need to do is find one of the angles, because you know a triangle adds up to 180, and you can use that fact to find the third angle, but you still need to do some math work to be able to figure out either D or F. So we're going to go in alphabetical order. Yes, you have the option of using the law of sines at this point, because you know two things about E, so you could revert back and use the law of sines in this, but we're going to continue on with law of cosines, and I want to know what D is. So here's my setup. Cosine of D. Go to angle D. The two sides that make up angle D are the ones that go in my formula first. 29 squared plus 36.9 squared minus 26 squared, my opposite side, divided by 2 times my first two, 29 and 36.9. So I go to my handy dandy calculator, I say, all right, what is this crazy decimal? And out pops 0.713. And so if I put that in my calculator, let me go up here because I'm going to run out of room. Cosine to the -1 of 0.713. I get my reference angle, and that reference angle is 44, angle D, 44.5. I would also put that in the fourth quadrant. We've talked about that, but the fourth quadrant would be too big because it's 360 minus 44.5, and I'd still be more than a triangle can be, so it's really just the reference angle for that. If I go to figure out angle F, the last angle of my triangle, I'm going to take 180, subtract away 84, subtract away 44.5, and angle F comes out to be 51.5 degrees. And so I've solved that triangle. I have all three sides, and I have all three angles. All right, one last one to do, because these are pretty straightforward, just a matter of remembering the formulas, is number 9. Now number 9, this one I did not give you the picture, and you're like, oh man, I don't have a picture, but then really it doesn't really much matter, so you make your own picture. So here it is. It's my picture. QRP, however you want to set it up, it doesn't really matter. QRP, that's the way I go. I have that little p is 24. I have that angle Q is 102. Now realize obviously I drew that, and it does not look like a 102 degree angle, and that's okay. You're just drawing a random picture. It doesn't necessarily have to be accurate to the dimensions. And they tell you that little r is 12. So I want to solve this triangle for all of the sides and angles. And in this case, they did not give me two pieces of information about one particular letter, so I have to use the law of cosines. And what I can do in this is figure out this opposite side over here, this little q. So here's how it works. Q squared equals, take the two other sides, 12 squared plus 24 squared minus 2 times 12 times 24 times the cosine of 102 degrees. Again, that's how the formula works. You've seen it in the flip math video. You saw it in the introduction video that I did as well. So here we go. Toss it all in your calculator. You saw me do that just a few minutes ago with that big old one for finding little e in that last problem. This one comes out to be 839.757. That's what the square is. You want the square root. The square root comes out to be 29, and that would be, in the units they give you, inches. And so little q comes out to be 29 inches. All right, then you need to find one of the angles. And so in order to find one of the angles, again, now you have enough information to use the law of sines if you prefer, or you can go about finding it using law of cosines. We're going to keep law of cosines since that's what we're in. I'm going to go for P. If I want to figure out what angle P is, angle P is here. I take the two sides that make angle P and start with them, excuse me. So 12 squared plus 29 squared, subtract away the opposite sides, 24 squared, divided by 2 times 12 times 29. Go to your handy dandy calculator, figure out the decimal for this. It's 0.5876. So then you're going to do cosine to the negative 1, 0.5876, and out pops your reference angle of 54 degrees. Again, cosine would be positive in the first and fourth. The fourth would be too big. We talked about that already. And so this guy is just going to be angle P is 54 degrees. And then you can easily figure out what angle R is. Angle R is 180 minus 102 minus 54. And that gives you an angle R that is 24 degrees. And so you have solved that triangle. You know all three sides. And you know all three angles. And that, my friends, is the law of cosines. I kind of like it. It's a long formula, but it kind of is relatively easy in the sense of you can kind of easily pick what numbers you're going to put in the place. As in other words, like when you're looking at P, you know, you're taking the two sides that make up P, and then using the opposite side last. So it makes a little bit more sense. And again, this is all when you've got triangles that are not right triangles. How do you solve out for the sides and angles? So if you have questions or problems, shoot me an email. We have one section to go after this, and then we are done this unit and almost done for the year after the review and test. So I hope you're doing well, and I'll talk to you soon. Keep in touch, and until next time, see ya.